Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Before we get started, I hope you guys had a happy Easter holiday, as well as a happy Patriots Day. Um, Thank you to all of our veterans. Anybody that's watching this that is a veteran, thank you for your service. We really appreciate you guys today. And this is a moment for us to give back to you guys. So happy Patriots Day, everybody, and happy long weekend. As always, we got a packed show lined up for you guys today. We're going to get right off the top. We're going to talk about the Warriors-Rockets game last night. That was a little bit of the late game, a little bit of some, I know it was most people had work tomorrow morning. The people that did have work this morning were not able to watch that game. Easily one of the best games of the tournament so far. We're going to recap that. Keys to how the Warriors took down the Rockets in game one, and talk a little bit Steph Curry, how much of an influence he had in this game. From there, we're going to take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. They took down the Los Angeles Lakers last night, or not 2 nights ago, sending them a clear message in game one of their series in the first round. We're going to get into everything about Anthony Edwards, how his performance was both offensively, defensively, all around the ball, how he was able to facilitate that offense to get hot at the right time, how they were able to take down the Lakers in LA. We're going to talk about that game. From there we're gonna really talk all NBA playoff basketball. We're gonna recap a lot of games, preview the games for later tonight, and so on and so forth. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. Just put your question at the top of the list so that I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right back into it here. Straight off the top, we're going to talk about the Warriors and Rockets matchup last night. The Warriors taking down the Rockets and probably easily my favorite game of the tournament so far, taking them down 95-85. Really, before I get started, this game was an absolute defensive masterclass on both sides of the ball for both teams. The Warriors, it was a 21-18 score at the end of the first quarter. Overall, this game was just all Warriors. Steph Curry finishing with 31 points, Jimmy Butler with 25. Alperen Sengun on the other side finishing with 26 points and 9 rebounds. He was an absolute dominant force for the Rockets on both sides of the ball. But yeah, like I mentioned, this game was an absolute defensive battle. I apologize, my nose is running at the moment. But yeah, the Warriors really dominated, blooming their lead to 20 points at one point going into halftime. It was all Warriors in this game to start. It just felt like the Houston offense could never get going. The spark for the Warriors that came in this game was Steph Curry. Like I mentioned, he finished with 31 points, going 5 of 9 from 3-point range. He made crucial shots down the stretch. If you haven't seen it, I wish I could put on the clips here as a little bit of a video clip. But Steph Curry was everywhere yesterday, hitting insane shots, hitting insane threes. The Rockets doing everything they can to give their offense chances, give their offense time to find a rhythm. But it just felt like Steph Curry, especially when the Warriors couldn't get anything going, Steph Curry was the guy for when he got his shot to fall, and that there's really nothing else to say. It was just the Steph Curry show at one point, especially in the third quarter when that lead started to bloom to 20 points, especially when the Rockets came back and forced it into a 3-point game. Who was the person to hit a timely shot to bloom the lead back to 6 to slow the Rockets' momentum? It was Steph Curry. It was all on Steph Curry and his shots, his shot making, and his ability to create his own shot, to get his own basket, to get his own not only shot, to get a bucket when the team really needs it, is just continues to prove his worth and value to this team, to this offense, and beyond. But as much credit as I want to give Steph Curry in this Warriors offense, I would be remiss if I did not mention the Rockets offense. Outside of Alperen Sengun, who was a dominant force on the interior, having his way with this Warriors interior defense with Draymond Green or Kevon Looney or whoever they decided to match up, or if the Warriors decided to go small ball, it was all Sengun was having a field day on the paint in the paint. Having 5 rebounds in the first 6 minutes of this game. He was a rebounding machine, even though he finished with 9 rebounds in this one. Finishing with 26 points, just overall being a dominant force on the interior. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about the offensive stalemate these two teams if you want to call it, the anemic offensive performance that the Rockets put on. Fred VanVleet shot 4 for 19 in this game. Shot 2 for 13 from 3-point range. An NBA champion, a guy that is supposed to be the leader of this offense, that should be a shooter. We remember him from his days in Toronto when he was a shooter for that team, working with Kyle Lowry at the time. But yeah, Fred VanVleet. From there, Jalen Green, 3 for 15, 0 for 4 from 3-point range, 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Like, come on. You can't expect your team to win, especially in the playoffs. This is the one reason I kept saying that in the playoffs, you need a legitimate scorer. You need a guy that you can depend on, that you don't have to worry, that you can just say, go take the ball, go get me a basket. We're down 1 point, or they're on a 10-0 run. We need you to slow down their momentum. Something along those lines. Jalen Green is supposed to be the number 1 threat on the offensive end for this team. He's supposed to be the guy that you look at when you need a basket. The same way the Warriors look at Steph Curry. Jalen Green has kind of adopted that role over the regular season. And if the Rockets are to win this series, or to be competitive in this series, to make it interesting, to make it a longer series, Jalen Green's gonna have to perform better than what he did last night. Fred VanVleet, when you're shooting 4 of 19, why are you continuing to I understand you're a shooter. And shooters shoot the basketball until they get hot, until they find their rhythm. I just don't like this. This is the problem with the Rockets. Like, I want to put the blame on somebody. I wish there was a way to put the blame on somebody, but at the end of the day, I've said this before on the show. The biggest piece that the Rockets are missing is not a defensive talent. Their defense is exquisite with Jabari Smith, with Sengun, with Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, who's been a stud on the defensive end of the ball. It is not another two-way player. If they can get an offensive, reliable scorer on this team, that is why I think they were interested in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes this summer. But it's looking like every day that goes by, it's looking like the Rockets are becoming less and less interested with Kevin Durant in the offseason. Whether that has something to do with a Ja Morant possibly becoming available, or somebody else possibly, they're turning their eyes somewhere else. But at the end of the day, the Rockets need somebody in Houston to give some of their guys a little bit of a rest. When you have Alperen Sengun finishing with 26 points, and your second leading scorer is a two-way tie between Dillon Brooks and Jabari Smith with 11 points each, I don't know what else. I don't know what you want this Rockets offense to do. I don't know where you expect your offense to be generated from. You need to score points to win games. As much as defense wins championships, you still need to score points to win games, or else you're going to lose. Especially in the NBA, you're not going to be shut down offense it's not going to be a shutdown defense all game long. It's not like you're going to hold a team to 50 points in a game. This was an unbelievable performance from this Warriors defense, and major credit to them holding this Rockets offense to 85 total points. But I also think, as much as it was Warriors defense, I think it would be unfair to Alperen Sengun and some of these Rockets players if we didn't mention Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green's struggles last night, because they had a lot to do with that offense not reaching their normal potential and normal standard of play. But one other nugget of information I want to say: Alperen Sengun finished with 26 points and 9 rebounds. On the other side, with Sengun, it was Steven Adams finishing with 6 points and 12 rebounds. It's going to be interesting to see how the Warriors respond to this defensive to the rebounding disparity. Just between two guys finishing with 21 rebounds in total between two guys is unbelievable. So the Warriors really have their hands full with these two guys, because that kind of performance just can't happen again. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you cannot allow your opposing team to have 21 rebounds between two guys. And I didn't mention Amen Thompson having 9 rebounds, Jalen Green with 8 rebounds, Jabari Smith with 6 rebounds. Like, it's just a rebounding disparity across the board. They're dominating the glass, and as much as the Warriors offense is able to carry, the Warriors defense is able to shut down the Houston offense. The Houston offense struggling to get started, to get a spark to get their offense going. The Golden State offense getting timely shots to continue to grow their lead. As much as all of that matters, do not get me wrong. But rebounding is so crucial in the NBA playoffs, because extra rebounds mean extra opportunities for shots, extra opportunities to get to the free throw line, which also completely shifts momentum as the game grows on. But yeah, that's my spiel about this series so far. That was game 1 last night, the latest game at 9:30 last night. And easily one of the better playoff series to come. We cannot wait for game 2 of this series on Tuesday, actually. I believe it's on Tuesday. Regardless, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Los Angeles Lakers and Minnesota Timberwolves. A series that we've had our eyes on since this playoff bracket has been announced. Obviously, LeBron James, Luka Doncic squaring off against Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. A name that we weren't really expecting to become a name so early in the season, or so early in the playoffs. Naz Reid having a spectacular game last night, or on Saturday night. We're going to get into everything about that series and discuss more playoff basketball when we come back.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into this next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Los Angeles Lakers 2 nights ago. They finished this game 117-95 in what was an absolute dominant fashion in general. It was an unbelievable game for the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. A little bit of an injury scare for Anthony Edwards, but we're going to get into that in this segment and discuss some of the Lakers' struggles, some keys for them come next game, what they can improve upon, what they did well in game one. I don't think they had an awful game one. I think there were factors in favor for the Timberwolves and factors not so in favor of the Lakers. We're going to get into both sides of that coin. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And like I've mentioned before, your guys' comments, both positive, negative, what we're doing well on the show, what we can improve upon, any general questions as I'm talking that you want me to clarify on, some perspectives that you have that you want me to answer, whatever you have, anything and everything is appreciated. And you guys are a big part of what we do here at the GSMC Sports Network. So we appreciate you guys, and everything is appreciated. But getting right back into it here, I mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers falling to the Minnesota Timberwolves in what was easily, I keep saying this, but honestly, every game in these playoffs is unbelievable. This game was another reminder of how good the NBA playoffs is this season, is going to be this season, with the Minnesota Timberwolves taking game one against the Los Angeles Lakers in pure dominant fashion in general. I said the other one was dominant fashion, but this one was pure dominance. After going on a 38-20 run to close in the second quarter, it was the Minnesota Timberwolves show all night. Anthony Edwards finishing with 22 points. 3 Minnesota Timberwolves players finishing over 20 plus. It was just raining threes in that building. It's really the only way I can describe it. Finishing the third quarter, going 15 of 26 from 3-point range. Jaden McDaniels going for 25 points. Naz Reid with 23 points. And Anthony Edwards with 22. I mentioned Naz Reid to start the show. He played a big role in this game, going 6 of 9 from 3-point range, 8 of 12 from the field. For a player like Naz Reid, who hasn't really been getting as many minutes as he has last year. Last year, obviously finishing as the 6th man of the year, but he's still a premier player for this team. He's a major part of what they do on offense. Coming off the bench for this team. You kind of plug him in depending on what you need. Sometimes the Timberwolves say you need more of a defensive talent. You plug in a Jaden McDaniels like they did in this game. But sometimes you also you're going into a game that's most likely going to be a shootout. Say if the Minnesota Timberwolves are taking on the Boston Celtics in a playoff series. If I'm Coach Finch, I'm probably going to play Naz Reid over Jaden McDaniels because of an extra shooting threat to keep up with the pace that the Boston Celtics play with. So that's the type of player Naz Reid is. He is a 6th man. He comes off the bench, but he's a plug-in kind of guy. You plug him in whenever you need him, plug in, plug out. If you need offense, need defense, use him in different situations, and that's how the Timberwolves have been using him all year long. But yeah, I really do think this game was more Timberwolves than Lakers. Switching over to the other side, Luka finishing with 37 points in this one. We know Luka Doncic has a long history against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoffs. We remember last year in the Western Conference Finals when the Mavericks took out the Timberwolves in 5 games. It was a 5-game series, but each of those 5 games were very close games. We remember Luka Doncic hitting the game winner over Rudy Gobert. We know we've seen it time and time again in the clutch with Luka Doncic hitting timely shots. Not only that game 4 against Rudy Gobert, I believe if I think back, I think it was game 2. He also hit another 3 over Anthony Edwards it wasn't a game winner, but it was down the stretch with about 2 minutes to play, and Luka Doncic hitting a 35-foot three-pointer from way outside to put the game on ice, pretty close to ice, in the final 2 minutes of that game. But yeah, Luka has a lot of history against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we know there's no love lost between Anthony Edwards and Luka. Anthony Edwards always playing with a chip on his shoulder. I mentioned at the top of the show he had a little bit of an injury scare in this one. Nothing that really came to that hit me off the bat when I saw the injury, but he pretty much went for a fall away jumper, and as he landed, I think he just landed awkwardly and he just strained his calf. If you ask me, they're calling it a cramp. That's what the injury doctors for the Minnesota Timberwolves said. They said it was just a little bit of a calf strain, but I've seen a lot of calf strains a lot of cramps in my day. That didn't look like a cramp, I'd say. I'm not calling anybody a liar or anything. I'm just saying I'm saying it could be a little bit extra than what they're reporting. We see this a lot of times with players in the NBA, not fully reporting their injuries, especially in the playoffs, because they don't want to miss games. And yeah, Anthony Edwards was in a lot of discomfort coming off the court, with an obvious limp. Coming back into the game, he hit an unbelievable three over Luka Doncic in what was honestly a highlight play. You probably saw it if you've seen it online. There was a little bit of a celebration from Anthony Edwards in that one in front of Luka Doncic, so it was a little bit of a highlight play for him. But in general, I think this game, I would point the finger and just say, if there was a factor that really determined this game, it would be the 3-point shooting of the Minnesota Timberwolves. At the same time, you can't say the Lakers' defense was so porous in this one that the Minnesota Timberwolves players were so wide open that they just couldn't pass up the opportunity to take the three that they had. The shots given to them, they couldn't pass up on them. But yeah, I would say this series, that game at least, I would say it had a lot to do with the shooting of the Minnesota Timberwolves than it had to do with the overall play of the Lakers. The Lakers tried to make a push at the end of this game, especially when Anthony Edwards went over to the locker room, bringing the lead all the way down to 12 points, I believe, at one point in the third quarter. But at the end of the day, like I mentioned, you can't really... A team that shoots 15 of 26 in the middle of the third quarter, I'm trying to find exactly what they finished with. But 15 of 26 from three-point range to finish the third quarter for the Minnesota Timberwolves. When that's just over 60% shooting from the stripe. And if you can't match that from the Lakers, if you can't shoot equally as well, LeBron going 1 for 5, Luka going 5 for 10, Austin Reeves going 3 for 8. He was one of their better 3-point shooters down the stretch. In general, if you can't really match up when you're scoring twos and the other team is scoring threes. It's a math problem, as the great Steve Van Gundy would say, as he said yesterday on the telecast. Yeah, overall this series, I still believe this series is going to come down to the big three of the Los Angeles Lakers, with Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Austin Reeves. Luka finishing with 37, LeBron with 19, Austin Reeves with 16 in this one. You just need more scoring overall between the three guys, because outside of those three guys, there really isn't very many scorers for this Lakers team, and I think that is going to be the biggest issue with this Lakers team. The fact that they're not a very deep squad, the fact that they're not the biggest defensive team. It's just three guys, three offensive reliable guys that can make timely shots. Austin Reeves really blooming into this role this season. That's why I would put him in that role. I would put him in that conversation. We've seen LeBron James over the last 20 years of his career. We've seen Luka Doncic just look back into last season of how clutch he's been down the stretch here, especially in the playoffs, how he turns up, similar to how Jimmy Butler turns up the intensity in the playoffs. Luka Doncic has a similar tendency. But yeah, I think game 2 of the series in LA is going to be crucial. The Minnesota Timberwolves already stealing game 1 from the Lakers on their home floor. The Lakers are going to have to go into Minnesota and take one of theirs if they're going to want this series to be competitive. But game 2 is going to be must win for this Lakers team if they're going to want to go, if they're going to have any confidence going into Minnesota and thinking they can take game 3 or game 4. But I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and Memphis Grizzlies series kicking off yesterday. I don't want to talk a whole lot about it, just because you'll see what I mean. It wasn't the prettiest performance from the Memphis Grizzlies, and it wasn't the prettiest performance from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So the question is, what happened to the Memphis Grizzlies? Is it a better thing? Is it a better note on a better look as a young Oklahoma City Thunder team, or is it a bad look on the Memphis Grizzlies? We're gonna take a look. We're gonna take a look at both sides of that coin. Look across the board, and the question is it too early to bring out the brooms for the Oklahoma City Thunder? That's the question. When we come back, we're gonna take a look at all of that.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. As we jump into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and Memphis Grizzlies. Is it too early to bring out the broom? All right, getting into this segment, I want to let everybody know I'm not a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies. This year is one of the first years I've really been as locked in as I have been on Western Conference basketball, just because of how competitive it's been, and justifiably so. But this game was nothing short of the most dominant performance I've seen in a long time. Not only in the playoffs, not only in the regular season, one of the bigger dominant performances all season long, from the regular season, playoffs, everything in general of the 24-25 season. The Oklahoma City Thunder finishing this game 131-80, the fifth largest margin fifth largest margin in general in a win for the Oklahoma City Thunder in NBA history. And it was with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shooting 4 for 13 from the field. A game where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finished with 15 points. And the Oklahoma City Thunder won by 51 points. Put up over 130 points. Yeah, I just want to let that, when I did not watch this game live, I will be honest. I believe I was at work at the time. I was at work earlier in the day yesterday, but at my other job. But to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander struggle in a performance, only get to the line a few times, only shot 6 of 7 from the free throw stripe, finishing with 15 points. And the Thunder winning by over 51 points, finishing with a 51-point finish. Marvin Bagley and Ja Morant being the leading scorers for the Memphis Grizzlies with 17 apiece. Jaren Jackson Jr. was dominated across the board. Finished 2 for 13 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3-point range. Didn't get to the free throw line. Only 3 rebounds, 0 defensive rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. I really think this is just a matchup issue between Jaren Jackson Jr. and Chet Holmgren. I think the height of both of these players, I think it's just the height of Chet Holmgren that's bothering Jaren Jackson Jr. Jackson Jr. is just not the big guy that we remember him to be when he started out in the league. When we remember him in college, he's just not he's not as strong, he's not as big as he used to be. He's much more of a skinnier, taller guy now. And I personally think that's the issue. That's just the issue with Jaren Jackson Jr. If he could get some more girth, some more weight on him, whether that means eating more, whether that means hitting the weight room more often, whatever it may be. I just think if you could add some pounds to him, he could be more of a threat. I think the reason why Bagley was much more of a threat was because he was able to dominate Chet with a physicality, with a strength, from the strength aspect of the game, just being able to bully him in the paint. But even then, he only finished 8 for 8. He shot 100% from 3-point range, 1 for 1, 8 for 8 from the field. Grabbed 5 rebounds in this game. But yeah, overall in this one, this is more about the Thunder, I'd say. As much as I want to pin the blame on the Grizzlies, as much as I want to say this is a Grizzlies issue, the Grizzlies got dominated. This game was not close because the Grizzlies could not match with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've known the Oklahoma City Thunder all year long. They're led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We know they have Chet Holmgren. We know they have Jalen Williams. A guy that has not had enough credit this season is a guy named Aaron Wiggins. Yes, Andrew Wiggins' brother. The older brother in Andrew Wiggins. This is Andrew Wiggins' younger brother in Aaron. Going 8 for 15 from the field, shooting 4 for 7 from 3-point range, finishing with 21 points in this game. He had a lot to do for this team down the stretch. But at the same time, he only finished with 21 points. 21 points may sound like a lot, but at the same time, it's not. It is a lot, but it's not at the same time, is what I'm saying. But yeah, this is a lot of credit to this goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. 2 players finishing with over 20 points. 6 players scoring over 10 points in this one. It was just Chet Holmgren finishing with a double-double. It was just overall just domination by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And maybe a lot of this, it has to do with the defense. The problem is I wish I watched this game. I wish I had a little bit more of an analysis outside of the 51-point disparity. But the thing that comes to mind that could have been a factor in this one, similar to the Rockets and Warriors game, was the defense of the Oklahoma City Thunder. We know the Oklahoma City Thunder finished the regular season from start to finish. They finished with the number 1 defensive rating across the league. If you look at it from start to finish in terms of consistency, in terms of overall play, not segments, not one game and a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there, full thing. They finished with the number 1 defensive rating in the NBA this season. I believe at one point they were number 1 in offensive and defensive rating efficiency. This is one of the better teams in the NBA. We've known this for a while. We've known this since they finished with the number one overall NBA record in the regular season, finishing with over 68, almost 68 wins in the regular season. We just know this Thunder team is great. We know it is. We know how good they are. We know how consistent they are. We know how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. But this is the first time, at least I've seen in the NBA playoffs, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has not performed like to his best. And it's come down to the role players to pick up the scraps, come down to Jalen Williams, come down to the Chet Holmgrens, Isaiah Hartensteins, Aaron Wiggins of the world, Isaiah Joes of the world, all these guys. A incredibly deep Oklahoma City team with incredible depth, being able to go 7-man deep that can score over 10 plus points. Very similar to how I talk about the Indiana Pacers. But imagine if the Indiana Pacers had an offensive scorer like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander instead of a facilitator like Tyrese Halliburton. This is the Oklahoma City Thunder team we're talking about here. A team with their leading scorer having one of his worst NBA performances of the season, of the year, of his career. And you leave that game losing by 51 points in a game where their best scorer had probably his worst performance in his playoff career. There's not much else to say, but this is going to be a clean sweep by the Thunder. As much as I love Ja Morant, as much as I want to say Ja Morant can keep this series physical, can keep it interesting, as much as I think Desmond Bane is a stud from the outside, being able to shoot the basketball, I just think the difference in this one is going to be the overall play of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the chemistry, the defense that they hold, the overall balanced offense, being able to shoot, having two guys in the interior act like towers, being able to get rebounds. I just don't know where you look if you're a Grizzlies fan. We mentioned this. I remember mentioning this earlier in the show I believe it was last week when I was previewing the series. Taylor Jenkins firing is going to have a major impact on this series. Has had a major impact on this team since he was fired. The Grizzlies were on a 4-game losing streak. Prior to that 4-game losing streak, they were the 2 seed in the Western Conference, a loaded Western Conference, one of the best Western Conferences we've seen in NBA history, with how loaded it is top down from 1 through 8. Every team having 2 guys, 2 superstars, star players, regardless, whatever you want to call it. 2 guys on each team that can go out and win games. 2 reliable scorers, at least big 2s is what I'm saying. The Grizzlies were the number 2 seed in that Western Conference at one point. Going on a 4-game losing streak, not having Ja Morant in the lineup in those 4 games played a big role. I get it. But a coach that's had over 250 wins, had an over 500 winning percentage. I believe it was closer to like 550, 580 winning percentage. A coach that's been there for 6 seasons, that's grown that culture, that's grown this team from the bottom, from the ground up. And you know he's had some struggles in the playoffs, but you cut him off at the knees. You don't even give him an opportunity to perform, to show you what he can do, to show you what this team is able to do when they're fully healthy. You cut him at the knees. You bring in a new guy that's been there. I believe he's been an assistant coach for this team prior to this season, but at the same time, I just throw out my hands, because at the same time, look at what the Grizzlies team is now. Going from 2 to 8, not being able to perform in the NBA playoffs, not having a strong cohesion on the offensive end. It feels like they don't have any chemistry. It feels like they're trying to grow a scheme on the fly, grow this new coach's scheme on the fly, learn everything. And Ja Morant is the leader of this team, so he's going to get all the blame. It's just like, what are we doing here? If I was a Grizzlies fan, I just wouldn't know what to do here. But yes, Is it too early to bring out the broom? It is absolutely not too early to bring out the broom. After losing by 50 points with your star player on the other team, with the best player on the other team, the MVP of the NBA, that's had 20 points per game, and I believe over 70 or 80% of his games, he's had over 20% in this during the regular season this year. A guy like that finishing with 15 points, and you lose by 51 points. At one point it was a 56-point lead for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't know where you go from here if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. Whatever scheme you had, you have to throw it out the window and go. If you want to have any chance in this series, Game 2 on Tuesday night is a must-win game for you. I don't know I believe it's Tuesday. It could be Wednesday night. Regardless, that game is a must-win game if you are a Memphis Grizzlies fan. If you're the Memphis Grizzlies, you throw whatever scheme you had out the window and you get ready for Game 2. You prep and you get ready as if your season depends on this next game, because it actually literally does. If you lose Game 2, this series, I'd say, is over. You're not going to win. Maybe you'll muster up a win in Memphis if you either win Game 3 or Game 4. But I'm picking a sweep, a 4-game sweep if you lose Game 2. It's just how it is. I'm going to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks series, the Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks series. I apologize for ranting there, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at that series. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks, NBA playoffs. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at I'll save that one for the next segment. We're going to take a look. We're going to talk about. I guess we're not talking about Pacers Bucks basketball. I apologize. Let's talk about the Pistons and Knicks. I'm kind of in a standstill. I only wanted to pick one of these two games because both games are going to be kicking off later tonight for Game 2. So we're going to recap Game 1 and then jump into Game 2. First of the two I'm going to cover. Of course, we're going to start in the East, save the better one for last in the West. In the Eastern Conference, we have the Pistons taking on the New York Knicks tonight in Game 2. Game 1 was exquisite between these two teams. I know that's a crazy word to say for an NBA playoff game or an NBA game in general, but it really was incredible, exquisite game with the physicality from both teams. Campaign down the stretch for this New York Knicks team. A player that we really haven't heard his name all season long, but a big mid-season I believe it was an off-season acquisition for the Knicks. But Campaign pulling in 11 points down the stretch here, finishing with 14. He played unbelievably down the stretch for the New York Knicks. But I think this really comes down to the play of Jalen Brunson. Brunson finishing with 34 points. Overall, 8 assists in this game. He played unbelievably all season long. He, especially coming back from injury, we lamented. Before previewing the series at the end of the regular season, we lamented how he came off of injury for a month or so from a calf injury. We didn't know what to expect from Jalen Brunson. We didn't know how he would come out in these NBA playoffs, how he would respond to some people kind of underrating this New York Knicks team before these NBA playoffs. I know, myself included. I picked the Pistons to win this series. But in game one, it was the Jalen Brunson show. It really, really was. But I think the Detroit Pistons going on a 36-26 run to finish the third quarter played a big role in this game. They really stepped on the gas in the third quarter, trying to take control of the momentum. But in the fourth quarter, it was all New York Knicks basketball, going on a 15-0 run at one point, climbing all the way back from their deficit, and it was really all sparked by Cam Payne. 11 points in the fourth quarter, shooting 3 for 5 from 3-point range, 14 points total in the game. This is why I'm saying it was the Cam Payne show, because it was the Cam Payne show in the fourth quarter. If it wasn't for him in the fourth quarter, I don't think the New York Knicks could have won this game. And it was 14 big points coming off the bench. Points that you really don't expect from that side of the bench. A player that really needs to step up his game if the New York Knicks want to win this series was a Mikal Bridges. Whether that was the physicality of the Detroit Pistons overall on the offensive side of the ball with Cade Cunningham, with Malik Beasley possibly bullying Mikal Bridges on the when he was guarding them on the defensive end of the ball. I can't really point to another reason why Mikal Bridges would only shoot 9 shots in a game. A player that's the number 2 option on he would say he's a number 3 option on really not really an offensive team outside of Jalen Brunson. Karl-Anthony Towns is good, but he's not really an offensive shooter. Mikal Bridges is the shooter for this team that you expect down the stretch to shoot about 12 to 15 shots a game. Normally finishing with about between 15 and 25 points a game. This game only shooting 4 for 9, 0 for 2 from 3-point range, only finishing with 8 points, not really having his best game of the season. That's why it continues to prove my point. Why Cam Payne down the stretch was so crucial for this team. Why he played a big role in their win down the stretch here. But yeah, overall, this is more about the New York Knicks basketball coming into this game being heavily underrated against the Detroit Pistons. Like I mentioned, I was one of them. I thought the Detroit Pistons' physicality, their youth, their consistency, they've really gotten hot down the stretch in the regular season. Their consistency on the offensive end was going to prove why they were the better team overall. But even with that, three Detroit Pistons players finishing with over 20 points, Tobias Harris being the star of the show for this team in game one, finishing with 25 points, shooting 8 for 13, 4 or 5 from 3-point range. I think he was absolutely crucial in this one. Absolutely. It's not even close. But I think a major reason why he became such a big piece in this one was because Cade Cunningham had such a slow day. Still had 21 points, but only shooting 8 of 21 from the field. I apologize. I feel like I have a bug next to my ear. Shooting 8 of 21 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3-point range. Finishing with 21 points. He did have 12 assists in this game. He's always been a facilitator. This is why I say Cade Cunningham's really becoming a number 1 option on this Detroit Pistons team. He's really growing into it. He's grown into it all season long. And he's probably if there's one guy I'd say that's going to become, not the guy that has the most to prove, but the guy that's going to prove the most, that's going to increase his stock as an NBA star player, as a growing superstar in this league, I think the credit has to go to Cade Cunningham with his performance, not only this season, but throughout the playoffs as well. We've seen so far in game 1 in a double-double performance from him. But yeah, another player that's going to have to continue performing is Malik Beasley. We all know he's a big scoring threat on this team. Very similar to Mikal Bridges, a shooter for this team. You expect him to shoot about 12 to 15 shots a game as a major offensive threat. He finished with 20 points, 6 of 12 from three-point range, finishing really efficient from the three-point stripe. He was a big reason why the Detroit Pistons were in this game. But yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of this, I think this game came down to Cam Payne getting hot in the fourth quarter, the New York Knicks just stifling the Detroit Pistons. We could say that the Detroit Pistons, this is their first playoff game as a core, like their core group, outside of a Tobias Harris, outside of a Malik Beasley. This is the first playoff game for a lot of the young talent on this team, with Jalen Duren, with Cade Cunningham. Jalen Duren only finished with 7.6 rebounds. I expect him to have a little bit of a bounce back game in his next game. We know Jalen Duren can perform better than 7 and 6. It's not a bad performance, but it's a little bit below his average, what we expect. We expect closer to 9 and 9, 12 and 9, something closer to that benchmark from Jalen Duren. Just because we know his talent, we know what he can be, we know his stats against the New York Knicks have spoken for themselves in general. But yeah, this game was more about the New York Knicks, I'd say, than it had to do with the Detroit Pistons. As much as I love this Pistons team, I think the New York Knicks experience really showed out in the fourth quarter. Coming back from a 10-point deficit, going on a 15-0 run over I think it was a 3 or 4 minute stretch in the fourth quarter. It was unbelievable. It was just the New York Knicks show in New York. But I think it's okay. You expect the New York Knicks to come out and win that game. If they had lost that game, that really would have thrown this series for a whirl. Like I mentioned, this is a first playoff game for a lot of these Pistons. On the road in a hostile environment, game 1 in Madison Square Garden. If Detroit had come out and won game 1 of this series, the New York Knicks would have heard it from the wazoo. They would have heard it. They would have heard it from Boston. They would have heard it from Los Angeles, California. All the way on the other side of the country, they would have heard New York fans in an uproar, because you can't lose that game against a new young team in the Detroit Pistons in their first playoff matchup. That is where I'm going to leave it. Game 2 set for 7:30 tonight in what will be an unbelievable game, I'd say. I would say it's the best game of the night, but the other game is better. I'm going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at Clippers Nuggets basketball, recap game 1 between these two teams. A spectacular game 1, a spectacular finish to game 1. A player that deserves a lot of credit, that has not heard a lot of credit throughout the regular season this year. And we're going to take a look at what the Clippers need to do in game 2 later tonight if they want to even this series at 1-1 apiece going back to LA. I'm going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at Clippers Nuggets basketball. Be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Denver Nuggets taking on taking on the Los Angeles Clippers. That we saw game 1 of this series on Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, actually. Yeah, this was one of the better. This is one of the most hyped up series prior to the playoffs. We remember, we of course remember 2020 with the two teams. The Nuggets coming back from 3-1 down against the Clippers in 2020, coming back winning Game 7 to go up against the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. This is the first time we've seen Kawhi Leonard go up against Jamal Murray and Jokic since that series. This is the first time we've seen him. James Harden obviously being a new face for this Clippers team. We obviously know Ty Lue versus Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers' resume in the NBA playoffs in general speaks for itself now. Ty Lue obviously a champion with the Cleveland Cavaliers, with LeBron James coming back from 3-1 down in his own right. He's been across the NBA. He's an unbelievable coach, Hall of Fame coach. We all know it. Ty Lue is exceptional. And the credit, a lot of the credit for James Harden's performance this year, his resurgence as a player, as a scorer, a lot of that has to do with Ty Lue, I'd say, with his confidence boost, with everything. Ty Lue has a lot to do with James Harden's resurgence as an NBA scorer this season. But the Nuggets winning this game 112-110 in overtime. It did take overtime for this game. With 4 minutes to go, well, in general, the Nuggets coming back from 17 points down in the second half, bringing it to within. It was an unbelievable performance in general from the Nuggets, I'd say. Like 17 points down. I believe it blew him to 17 points in the third quarter, and the Nuggets came all the way back. I'd say specifically over the last 5 minutes of this game, a big reason why the Nuggets finished this comeback was their rebounding. I know Ivica Zubac is really growing into a top 5 center in this league, still finishing with 21 points and 13 rebounds. But down the stretch of this game, it wasn't, the defense of the Clippers was stifling the Nuggets. It absolutely was. There was a big reason why they gave the Nuggets a lot of problems down the stretch. Or they gave the Clippers, the Clippers defense gave the Nuggets a lot of issues on the offensive side of the ball. But it was the rebounding of Jokic, the rebounding of Aaron Gordon, the rebounding of Russell Westbrook, a player that has not gotten a lot of hype, a lot of credit this regular season. We remember against the Minnesota Timberwolves when he missed a wide open layup against this same Denver Nuggets team in a game where if he had just made a bunny layup, a layup that he's made hundreds of times, millions of times, if he had made a simple layup, they would have won the game. A player that fouled on a three-pointer that also lost them that game in the ensuing possession. A player that's now taking heat because Mike Malone got quote-unquote too close to him in the locker room, was giving him extra chances specifically after that game against Denver, continuing to give him big minutes down the stretch of games instead of relying on the younger talent in Jalen Pickett. A lot of people are saying that being a big reason why Mike Malone no longer coaches this team. But we also see examples like last night or again on Saturday night in Game 1 where Russell Westbrook hits it was a 3-point shot with under 30 seconds to play, giving the Clippers a 1-point lead. Or giving the Nuggets, was it a 1-point lead? I believe, no, it was a 2-point lead because the Clippers were up by 1. Giving the Clippers a 2-point lead with under 30 seconds to play in the game. A massive 3-point shot that completely changed the game. Really, it was a clutch 3-pointer by Russell Westbrook, and it was a big reason why they ended up winning this game, especially with Jokic going to the stripe and missing 2 free throws. 2 key free throws with under a minute to play. Christian Braun also hitting a massive 3 in overtime that continued to, like I said, another clutch 3 that ended up lifting the Nuggets over the Clippers. But like I mentioned, this game last night had a lot to do with the rebounding of Aaron Gordon, Jokic, and Russell Westbrook. The timely shooting of some of the Nuggets role players was great to see, but it was really the rebounding, the ability to get extra possessions, the ability to get to the free throw line, as well as a key turnover by Kawhi Leonard with under 40 seconds to play, and another key turnover with under 10 seconds to play in overtime by James Harden. Overall, this is a similar situation to what the Lakers are in with their top three guys. This situation being James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac. We should throw Norman Powell in this conversation. We absolutely should. Do not get me wrong. But Norman Powell needs to shoot better than what he did. Only shooting 5 of 12, 2 for 6 from three-point range. Having more of a mid-performance from him, only shooting 40% from the field. Not really getting to the free throw line. We know Norman Powell can do better, and that's where, like, if you really wanted to point the finger anywhere, you could point it at Norman Powell to have a better offensive performance. But Kawhi Leonard did his thing, shooting 9 for 15 from the field. James Harden did his thing, finishing with 32 points. Another 30-point performance from James Harden in the regular season. Continuing to perform like we were vintage James Harden from the NBA playoffs years ago when he was with the Houston Rockets. We haven't seen playoff performing James Harden since his days with the Rockets. We don't want to bring up his days with the Sixers from the Game 6 and Game 7 where he didn't show up against Boston, where he gets absolutely hosed every time it's brought up. We don't want to bring up his performance with the Brooklyn Nets where he didn't show up in 2021. He also got hurt, but he didn't really show up at the same time. Like, you just don't want to... This is the first time we've seen vintage real James Harden since about 2020, 2021, maybe. 2020, I'd say. In the NBA bubble playoffs. And even then, if you want to go before that, you could look at 2019 when the Rockets almost took out the KD, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Golden State Warriors. You can look at 2018 with Chris Paul. I'll say it. This is the best James Harden we've seen since 2018 NBA playoffs when he was with Chris Paul. I'm sorry, but I'm serious. I'm being so serious. The current James Harden that we're seeing right now with the Los Angeles Clippers, this is the best James Harden that I've personally seen since his days in 2018, 2019 with the Houston Rockets. When he was an MVP candidate, when he was an absolute stud in the NBA playoffs, when he almost brought the 2017, 2018 Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant. He brought them to a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. Chris Paul gets hurt, and I believe Game 5, the Rockets were up 3-2 in that series and ended up losing Game 7 because James Harden decided to shoot, I believe, like 1 of 10, and Chris Paul was playing injured. Regardless, this is the best James Harden we've seen since those days, and saying that speaks volumes right now to the performance of James Harden this year, and continues to give credit, like I mentioned, to Ty Lue, to how he's performed and how he's coached, how he's put James Harden in the position to succeed, how he's given James Harden confidence in his shot back, something we haven't seen in years. So major props to the Los Angeles Clippers and James Harden. I think he's going to continue to perform. Game 2 of this series kicks off at 9:30 this evening. It's either it's either 9:30 or it's 10 o'clock. 1-0 for the Denver Nuggets right now. They're up 1-0 in the series. But yeah, I'm gonna hit this point until the Roosters go home. I think a big point of this game is going to be able to keep Jokic and Aaron Gordon off the offensive glass, off the glass in general. If they can keep those two guys at bay on the glass, especially when it matters most down the stretch. We know Ty Lue is not a choke artist. We're not saying this is the same Clippers team from years past when the Clippers are choke artists, when they're not playing well, when they're just struggling to perform down the stretch. We know that the Clippers have that title, absolutely. I get it. But this Clippers team deserves credit where credit is due. They're a great team. They're a young team. They're not the deepest team, which is a little bit of a point of concern, but I think they can get through that little issue, and I think they'll be okay. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Clippers to win this game and even this series going back to Los Angeles. That's just my personal belief. I think Norman Powell is going to have a comeback game. I think Ivica Zubac is going to continue to perform. James Harden will continue to perform. Kawhi Leonard will continue to do his thing. I expect the standards from both those guys. Kawhi Leonard's been consistent since he's been back in the lineup healthy. James Harden been pretty consistent all season long. And I got the Clippers winning game 2 going back to Los Angeles. But thank you guys once again for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Once again, it was another unbelievable show. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me here. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Patriots Day. Once again, to all of our veterans, thank you once again for your service, for everything that you guys continue to do for our country, for what you guys did in your past. Everything is greatly appreciated, and this is a day we appreciate you guys on President's Day. So thank you to all our veterans. Also, happy Easter. I hope you guys had a wonderful, happy holidays in general, are having a wonderful long weekend. For the people that don't have work today, going back to our show, your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, to the GSMC Sports Network, and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference more than you think. A positive review, whatever review you guys have, please let us know what your thoughts on this show in the comments. What I can improve upon, what you guys like to see more of, what you guys like to see more of in general, what I could be doing better. In general, please just let me know in the comments. Anything is greatly appreciated. We also invite you guys to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again for another amazing show. Happy holidays to everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your long weekends. And happy NBA playoffs. Knicks, Pistons at 7 o'clock. Clippers, Nuggets at 10 p.m. We'll be back same time tomorrow to talk about those two games. Thank you guys once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your days. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to